In this part, we'll start from the basics of data modeling in Power BI. Let's look at the agenda first. In this part, we will discuss why data modeling is important with example. What is data model? Types of relationship like one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-many relationship, and additional scenarios like composite key, role-playing relationship with live demo of each relationship. Now let's discuss about why data modeling is important. Let's start with simple data. Most of us work with data in Excel and usually we work with multiple tables. Let's say we have employee table and salary table. If you need salary of each employee, you will go to salary table and will fetch the data of employee. If you work with Excel, you will apply simple VLOOKUP formula like this, where you will create a key column employee ID which matches in the salary table with employee ID and fetch the records. Let's do it. So here you see we got salary of employee based on employee ID from another table. Although it's very easy to fetch data from another table when you are looking up just one value. Things change when you are dealing with large data sets. Once your data grows to 1 million or more rows, dragging formula like VLOOKUP across thousands of rows can slow Excel down or even crash. Now let's look at another scenario where you work with multiple tables. So let's say you have customer table where you have customer details 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and you have order placed by these customer. So here we have 3 order placed by customer. So for example, you need a report for all the customer and all their reports along with their name. Now you cannot use VLOOKUP function here because VLOOKUP fetches only one record. In this case, we have customer 1 has placed 3 orders. This is just simple example, but there can be a scenario where one customer has ordered more than 10 plus. So you will have to create accordingly. Here you will need to write advanced formulas or build pivot tables or do manual work like this, where you will add number of rows for the orders. For example, in C1 case, we have 3 orders. So you will fetch from here, then copy paste here like this. In our last session, we learned how to merge tables when working with multiple data sets, but in real projects, merging everything into one big table isn't always the best solution. For example, if you have 5 lakh customer with 1 million orders, combining them into a single table would create a big file, and most of that data may not even be needed in your report. If you only want to see order for a specific customer like this, where I want to see only order placed by customer 5, then I should see it. If you only want to see order for a specific customer, it makes more sense to keep the table separate and show only the relevant records during the reporting. Now let's look at another scenario where you work with a multiple table. Let's say you have employee project and project details table. Here one employee can work on multiple tables. So for example, employee 1 work on project 1 and 2. Again, same another employee works on multiple projects 1, 2. So here you can see one employee is working on the many projects and many projects can be worked upon by many employee. In Excel, this becomes too difficult. In Excel, this becomes very difficult to create report like this, where you need all the records of the employee with all their project details and all the project details like this. So for example, if I need to check what employee 1 is working on all what projects and what task, you will have to create multiple row here first, then get details of project 1 first, then add the numbers here, then create again multiple rows here and repeat for the same. Think about if you have 1 million rows with 1 million employees and multiple projects. This is very difficult to implement in Excel. We cannot solve this by formulas or pivot table. You will have to do manually or write VBA macro in Excel. And again, if your data size is in lakhs, it becomes nearly impossible to handle manually. Now that we have seen different challenges of working with multiple tables, let's understand what data model really is and how simple modeling technique can help us solve these issues effectively. A data model is simple way to connect multiple tables using a common column so they can work together as one system. Instead of storing all information in single big table, we organize the data into separate tables and define clear relationship between them. These relationships are based on a common key like employee ID, customer ID, or department code. For example, if we store all records in big table and want to find the details for just one employee, we have to scan through the entire data set, including salary, department, and project details, even if we don't need them all. But when we split this into separate tables, employee, department, salary, and link them using keys, we can quickly get only the relevant information for that one employee. This approach keeps your data clean, reports faster, and makes everything easier to manage, especially when working with large data sets. Now let's explore the different types of relationship used in data models, how they help us solve the real challenges we discussed earlier. Let's first understand what a relationship means in data. A relationship is a connection between two tables based on common column, usually called a key. A key is a unique identifier for each row in a table. For example, in an employee table, the column employee ID acts as the key because each employee has a unique ID. Even if two employees have the same name or work in the same department, their employee ID will always be different. Now let's understand what is one-to-one relationship. Each record in the first table matches with only one record in the second table. So both sides have exactly one match, no duplicates. Let's say we have two tables, employee table with employee ID and name, salary table with employee ID and salary amount. Since each employee has one salary and each salary belongs to one employee, this type of relationship called one-to-one relationship, as we have only one matching both sides. Another simple example can be every employee has only one Aadhaar number and every Aadhaar number belongs to only one person. So remember, in one-to-one relationship, both sides must have only one matching record. Now let's understand what one-to-many relationship means. In one-to-many, one record in the first table can be connected to multiple records in the second table, but each record in the second table matches to only one record in the first table. Let's say we have two tables, customer table, order table. Both can be connected using customer ID column here. One customer can place more than one order, but each order belongs to only one customer. So remember, we will have only one ID for an customer, but a customer can have many order. So this type of relationship called one to many. Now let's look at what is many to many relationship. A many to many relationship means one record in the first table is linked to multiple records in the second table, and one record in the second table is also linked to multiple records in the first table. That means both sides have repeated values in the relationship column. So let's say we have two tables, employee project table and project task. One employee can work on multiple projects. One project can have multiple employee. When we connect these tables using project ID, and this project ID is repeated in both tables, which makes it many-to-many relationship. So let's summarize all three relationships in One-to-one relationship, each record in one table connects to exactly one record in another table. Like one employee can have only one salary. So this is called one-to-one relationship. In one-to-many relationship, one record in the first table connects to many record in the second table. Like one customer can have many orders. So this is called one-to-many. In many-to-many relationship, records in both tables can repeat and connect to many messages on the other side. Like many employee can work on many projects. So this is called many-to-many relationship. So what's required to implement a data model? So before implementing a data model, we will have to ensure we have clean tables. If data is not clean, you can transform data using Power Query, which we have already discussed in detail in our part 4 session. The second one is required common columns, which is keys like employee ID, customer ID, project ID that connects related table. The third one, defined relationship. You must tell Power BI which column connects to which, like employee ID in employee table, employee ID in salary table. And fourth one is clear understanding of relationship type, like one, it should be one to one or one to many or many to many. Now let's build all these type of relationship in our Power BI. Now let's revisit scenario 1, the one we discussed earlier in Excel. We had two tables, the employee table and the salary table, and our goal was to prepare a simple employee salary report. By now you are already familiar with the Power BI interface. We covered that in part 3 of the series, and you have also seen how to connect with data and clean or transform raw data in Power Query, which we explored in part 4. So now we will directly focus on creating data model. Let's say we have already loaded data in Power BI. You can see we have employee table and salary table. In table view, we can see the data of it. Let's try to create simple table right now. I won't be focusing on how to create a table or chart and format it. That I'll be discussing in detail in our next part. Just focus on data as of now to understand how data model works in Power BI. Let's try to create a simple table view here. Let's load data from employee table. We have employee ID, employee name. We have department. Let's a bit increase the font of it. Now you can see we have employee ID 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's try to get data from employee table. So I'll drag it here. Now you see as soon as I dragged details from salary table, we got an error here because Power BI doesn't know how to get data from salary table. For example, if I need employee one salary, Power BI doesn't know what is the salary of employee one because it is stored in salary table. In VLOOKUP, you would have used VLOOKUP to apply to get salary details. That is what we'll discuss right now in Power BI with the help of data model and creating relationship, how we can get this data. Now let's go to model view. On the left side, third tab, we have model view. Here you can see we have employee table and salary table. On the right side, you will see properties and details like tables, model. You will see properties for model. Over the period of time, once you start working with the data model, you will understand each properties here. But as of now, let's focus on creating a relationship. How to create a relationship? That is, we have already discussed what is relationship, what is key, and types of relationship. To create a relationship, first we need a key and what type of relationship. So now let's try to create this in Power BI. Let's go to Home tab, Manage Relationship. Here it will open a new window. Once you click on Manage Relationship, I'll click on New Relationship. As soon as I clicked on new relationship, you will see it will ask us to select the tables. So for example, in this case, we want to create a relationship between employee table and salary table. Now, the second thing, we need a key. The key between these two tables is employee ID. So Power BI has by default selected employee ID, but you can select like this. So for example, if you have different key ID there, so you can select like this and ensure that okay, here we are telling okay, we need to create relationship between employee table and salary table, and our key would be employee ID. Now the third thing, we have to define what kind of relationship between these two tables. Now once I click on this drop down, you will see many to one, one to one, one to many, and many to many. One to one to many to many, which we have already discussed. In this part, after the one to many, one to one, we'll discuss why one to many and many to one are similar relationship. It is just that which table we select in the from table and which table we select in the to table. Now in this case, we have the relationship type is one to one. Next is cross filter direction. By default, when you are working first time for a data modeling, just select it both. Over the period of time, you will understand the role of this cross filter direction. Now we have make this relationship active. You can select it. We click save. Now you can see as soon as we clicked on save, we have a relationship created here between employee table and salary table. It tells us, okay, it is one to one. It is active relationship. And on the properties, now you can see all the properties which we selected. On the visual part, you can see here we have employee table, salary table, and it is connected with an arrow which says 1 1 both sides. That means we cannot have same employee ID for two employee. Same in the salary table. Now let's look into the Power BI visual, how it works. So now we have already details from employee table, which is employee ID, employee name, and department. Let's try to get salary from salary table. I'll select here. Now you see we have got automatically salary of each employee. Now let's verify this in Excel. What's the salary for employee 1? It says 6761. Let's go to Excel. Let's open employee ID. We have employee ID 1 Neha, and we'll go to salary table. Here you can see we have 6761 for employee ID 1. Power BI automatically get these details once we define the relationship. Now let's try to add more data into it. Let's go to raw file. I'll go to employee table. I'll just copy paste here. Let's add 5,000 records here. You can see I have added 5,000 records. I'll save it. I will also get salary of each employee in salary table. Now you can see we have 5,000 employee with 5,000 salary. So now to get these details, I can simply click on refresh button at top. Now you can see within a click of a button, I got salary of each employee. Now you can see how easily I have got it. So for example, again, I need a salary list of employee for each department. How easily I can get it? I'll click a slicer here. Don't worry, we will be discussing all these slicer charts in very depth and how to format it in our next part. For now, just focus on how I'm filtering the data. So now I got here department. For example, I need to check what are the employees salary in my finance department. I can simply select here. You can see now I got list of employee working in finance. Then I can select HR, IT, marketing, and based on my requirement, I'm getting easily these details. Now let's look at another scenario which we might face challenges while working with Excel reporting. So let's say you have this employee table where you have employee details. Now somebody by mistakenly updated records in Excel and changed employee ID to employee 2. So now employee 1 has been replaced by employee 2 by mistakenly, and now you are preparing this report in Excel. Let's apply VLOOKUP here to get salary details. Now let's try to drag. Now here if you look at, we didn't get any detail for employee 1 because employee 1 is missing from there. Then we got employee 2 salary, which is 6761. I'll go here. Let's go to, so it says 6761, and in salary table, the employee 2 salary actually is 773, which is missing because Power BI VLOOKUP has, when it looked up, it got first record, which is 2, and that's why it has given us 6761. And you might end up doing a wrong reporting here. So let's try to how Power BI behave in such case when we have duplicate records. Let's try to refresh in Power BI. Now you can see we got an error here. We got to know that salary table contains duplicate employee 2. So before creating our report in advance, we have got to know that, okay, there are duplicates record in our data, which is not allowed in one-to-one relationship because we have defined each table will have unique employee ID. In case it is duplicate, that means this is error. So you got to know that, okay, there is something wrong with my data and you can correct it and can do a correct reporting. Now let's move to scenario 2. In this case, we are working with two tables, customer table, order table. Our goal was to create a simple customer order report showing which customer placed which orders. Earlier, we all faced this kind of scenarios in Excel, and we know how painful it can be using multiple formula, managing multiple entries for the same customer, repeating the same effort every time data updates. Now that you understand relationship in Power BI, let's rethink this. Both tables share a common column, customer ID. This acts as the key to connect them. When we analyze it, each customer has a unique ID, but one customer can place multiple orders. That's one-to-many relationship. One customer, many orders. Now let's implement this in Power BI. We have already loaded customer and order table. You can see we have customer details here. We have order tables. Now let's try to create again a simple report. We'll create a table report here. We'll select customer ID and customer name. You can see we have details. Let's increase the font size. Here you can see we have 5 customer here. Now let's try to get order of these customer. Let me drag order ID here. Now you see we got error because there is no relationship between customer table and order table. Let's try to create relationship. Let's go to model view. Within model view, we can see both the tables. Go to home tab, manage relationship, new relationship. We'll select table here, which is customer table, and then order table. Now we know customer ID is the unique key between these two tables. We'll select customer ID here, customer ID in order table. Now let's select relationship here. As we already said, one customer can place many orders, means there will be only unique ID for each customer. Although name can repeat here, like you can see here, we are having same name but different customer ID. But in the order table, one customer can place many orders. We can see one customer has placed many orders. So this is called one-to-many. Again, there is one relationship we did not discuss earlier, although it is here, which is many-to-one, which means the first table will have many records and the second table will have one record. So in this case, if we interchange table here, like for example, if we say, okay, let's go with the order table first, we'll go back here, let's say new relationship, we'll say order, and then we are saying the second table is customer table. In this case, it will become many-to-one because our first table having many records and second table having one record. So it is just about interchanging the tables, which table we are using first. If we are using many table first, then it's a many-to-one. If we are using customer table first, where it is every customer has unique ID, that is one-to-many. This is helpful when you are working with the multiple tables and Sometimes you have to select order table first and then customer second. This is helpful here. You will learn over the period of time once you work with the multiple tables used in the data model. So let's go with the our scenario here, which is one to many. So we will select customer table, then order table. We selected our customer ID here, and one to many. We'll select both here as of now. As I said, initially when you work, you can select both. So we will save it. You can see our relationship has been created here. Now let's look at visual. Now you can see earlier, if you remembered, both sides there was 1 and 1. But now here, if you look at, it says 1, and here it has star button. Because it says in this table there will be one record for customer ID for our key, which is customer, and in this table for our customer ID there can be a many records for single user. So one customer can place many orders. Now let's go back to report. Here we have details of customer, customer name, and order ID. Now let's drag. You see we already got order here. Earlier we were getting error. Now you can see we got customer ID. We have already. Now let's get the amount here. Now you can see we got customer ID, customer name, order ID, and some amount we can easily get. So for example, if I need order details for a particular customer, I can create a slicer here and place customer ID here. Now you can see if I need customer one order, I can simply select here. You can see I can easily get number of records. I don't have to create, like in Excel, you will have to create number of records. For example, if order has increased, then again go do manual work. So you can think how painful it is, implementing such report in Excel. But here's just single click, you can get easily number of records, order placed by a customer. You don't have to add column, number of rows and anything. It will be done automatically. Now let's try to add more records into it. So let's add, go to customer table. Let's add 2000 customer here. So we have added here, you can see we have added 2000 customer here. Now let's add order of each customer. So we will place 10,000 order has been placed by 2000 customer. We will go here, and this is our order table, and we can add here like this. So you can see 10,000 order placed by 2000 customer. We will save it. We'll go here in Power BI. Let's delete this filter as of now, and I'll simply go here and refresh. Now you can see we got all 20,000 record placed by these 2000 customer just by refreshing. Think of this in Excel. If you have to work in Excel, you will really understand how easily you are able to prepare such report. If you had to implement this in Excel, it would have taken a lot of time. If any change in the data, you will have to rework, and that could have been a lot of effort would have been put into it. But here in data model, you can see just you created relationship once. Now everything is done automatically. Just click off a refresh. Now you can do a lot of analytics on top of it over the period of time. Once you are familiar with the concept of visualization, data analytics, we will discuss. You will understand how easily we can prepare and do data analytics on these reports. Now let's try to look at another scenario. Let's try to add a duplicate ID in customer table. What happens? Okay, let's try to duplicate customer details. I have made duplicate IDs here. Now let's go back to Excel, Power BI, and refresh. So you see we got error here. The report is not prepared because we got an error here. Customer ID in table, customer table contains duplicate because it is one to many. We cannot have duplicate record for customer ID. Now let's revisit scenario 3, the one we discussed earlier in Excel. We had two tables, an employee project table and a project task table. And our goal was to create a report that shows which employees are working on which projects and what tasks are involved in each project. In Excel, we quickly realized that this type of report is nearly impossible to with formula like VLOOKUP or even with a pivot table, especially when you are working with lakhs of records. Manually connecting these table and repeating combination would be inefficient, error prone and just not scalable. Let's now try to solve this in Power BI using data model. If we closely look at it, the common key in both the table is project ID, but here in project ID is repeated in both the tables. One employee can work on multiple projects. One project can be assigned to multiple employees. Each project can have multiple tasks. So if you try to understand this in terms of relationship, you can see that this is example of many-to-many relationship. Now let's try to build this in Power BI. Open Power BI and connect to project table and task table. We have already connected. So you can see here in our project table, we have employee ID and project assigned. For employee 1, we can see project 1 assigned, while project 3 is assigned 1 and 2. Now in project task table, you will see we have project 1 having development, testing and design. Now let's try to build this report. Let's create a view first here. To see the data, we'll load data like employee ID and project ID. So let's increase the font size. Now let's try to get data for employee from the project. For example, we need all the task name in the project. So again, if you try to get it, we will get an error because there is no relationship created here. Now let's go to relationship tab. We'll click home button here and manage relationship. Now by now you must be aware how to create and select the table. We'll quickly try to select here. We know project ID is our common key here and then project ID. Here you will get a warning for many to many relationship. You can ignore it and select both by default initially when you are working. As I already said, over the period of time when you work with the advanced modeling, you will understand the meaning of cross filter direction. For now, let's select both. Click save. Now you can see relationship has been created here. We'll go back. You can see now both side it's showing a star because in the both side we are telling there are records will be duplicate for our key which is project ID. Now let's go back to visual here. Now you can see we have got here all the records. I'll try to reselect here task name here. You can see we have got all the task name for the employee working on particular project. Let's try to filter out data here. We'll create a filter here and then employee ID. So let's say we want to see what are the project employee 3 working on. Now you can see all the we can see employee 3 working on 2 project 1, 2 and 3 projects, sorry. And then for each project the task is also like design development, and in the design documentation and testing in the project 3. So similarly you can get for employee 4. Let's try to add more data into it and try to see how quickly Power BI create this report. So we'll try to add more record here. We'll try to add here 1000 employee. Let's try to add 10,000 employees, sorry, with the project assignment. We'll go to employee project table here. Let's say we have added here 10,000 records. Now let's add records for projects as well. Let's And we have added here 300 project with different tasks for each project. So now let's try to refresh here. Power BI, we will refresh. Now you can see we have all the record coming here. As of now, we'll select. So now you can see quickly how quickly it has created all the report within a second. Think of Excel if you had to do this for 300,000 employees, and you had to add multiple rows for each employee, because each employee working on multiple projects and each project having multiple tasks. So you will have to add 10 records, 15 records for each employee, and then add here. And it will be again manual work. If new project added, new task added, go back, rework. Think of that way how easily we are able to achieve this using by just creating a simple many-to-many relationship. Let's try to see for any employee. Let's say we are selecting here employee 43. Now we are getting automatically 43 working on two projects here, and with the what task like 45 working on, we can see project 16, 62 and 26, 226. So here we are easily able to see which employee working on which project. For example, if we need to see what employees are working on what particular project, we can also create like that. So for example, I want to see what employees are working on project 1. I can simply click here and can see here. So you can see we have 323 project, so list of all the employees working on project 1, project 2. Or if you want to see particular task, how many employees are working on particular task, we can also do that. Like we want to see who all are in development team, who all are in design team, documentation team. So easily we can get all this data by creating a simple relationship. So far we have covered how to create a relationship based on a single key column like employee ID, customer ID or project ID. But what happens when there is no single column that can act as a unique key between two tables? Let's look at real example. We have a sales table that records sales by region and a month. We have also a target table which shows target sales for each region and month. Now let's say I want to compare actual sales with the target. To do that, I need to link these two tables together. But if I try to create relationship and use just a region as a key, it won't work because region is repeating across multiple months, so it does not uniquely identify the row. Same problem with month, each region having month-wise target. So it also repeats across regions, so it doesn't uniquely identify the row. Let's try to understand this in Power BI. Let's say we have already loaded sales data and target data in Power BI. For sales data, you can see we have region wise and month wise sales. So each region having month and sales for it. Same with the target, for each region we have month, and for each month we have target. So here for North January target, we can see 9,500, and for Feb it is 11,000. Similarly, for Jan month, for South region, we are having 8,700 target. So here we are not able to uniquely identify which will be our key. So let's try to create our simple report here. Let's say we have region here, month and sales here. So here we can see we have region wise, month wise sales. Now let's try to get a target month here. We'll get an error here. Let's fix this. We'll remove here. We'll try to create relationship using, first let's try to create a region. If you think it as many to many, let's see why it won't work as many to many. So we created a many to many relationship. Now let's try to get target here. Now let's see what is the target. We will try to see for one particular region here. We'll create a slicer here where we'll select region. Now let's try to look at North target. Now you see the target for north month is repeating here 31,000. Same with east, it is showing 16,000. Now let's understand why. So if you look at here for north region, we have three records and it has combined all the three records. It is a sum of 30,000 combining for north region and showing 30,000 for each sales. Like north, in case of north, for each month it is showing 30,000. But we have separate target for each month as well, not just region wise target, because we are having here region wise, then month wise target. If you try to create month wise relationship, we change key here month wise. Let's see what happens. Now you see, let's try to drag month column here. Let's say Jan. Now we want to see Jan month for central, east, north, west. You can see it is showing same target for all the region because it has combined Jan month data into one and showing across all the regions. But again, we don't have monthly target. We have combining first region or and then month wise target. So here in this case, we are not able to identify a key. But if you closely look in this data, if we combine region and month together, then we can create a key here. So for example, if we combine region and month together, then it can create a key. So let's try to create a key here based on combining two columns, and this is called composite key. So we can go to transform data, and in the part 4 we have covered Power Query in depth, how to create all the transformation and how to apply and create new column here. I won't be explaining it. If you want to go into the detail of Power Query, you can watch our part 4 of the series. I'll simply go here, add column. I'll try to, let's give it a name like key. So let's say region, and we can give some separator like hyphen here, and then we are saying month. So now you can see, I think something wrong here. Let me go back. So we have created simple formula. We are saying, okay, combine region, then hyphen sign and then month. So now here you can see we have north hyphen Jan, north Feb, north March. So we have combined two columns into one, which make this row unique now. So you will see it is not repeating. North Jan, North Feb, North March, then it is Jan for a south, Feb for a south, then Feb for a east. So each row has become unique here. Let's do the same in target table. Let's create a new column here and combine region and month here. Now you can see each row has become unique here. Let's try to load this data. Now let's create relationship based on, not on the month or region, based on key. Now it has become one-to-one. When you combine multiple column to create uniqueness, it's not necessarily that it has to be two column. There can be a scenarios where even you have to combine multiple columns into one to make it as a unique key. And it's not necessarily that it has to be one-to-one. It can be a one of these relationship. It can be a one to, after combining, it can be a one-to-one, one-to-many, or many-to-many. In our case, it is coming as one-to-many. So let's do one-to-one. And let's go back here. Now you can see it has automatically, now we are getting the correct target for each month. Let's see region wise. Let's try to look at. We'll go here. For example, we want to see what are the target for north region for Feb month for Jan. Now you can see if you go to target table here, and if you look at north Jan target is 9,500. So now you can see we combined two tables, two columns into one. It created a uniqueness in the table, and then we created a relationship. So remember, when no single column can define a relationship, you can always combine two or more columns to create a reliable, unique key. Composite key are powerful pattern, especially in business scenarios like targets, budget, forecasting, and many more. Earlier, we discussed that in order to connect two tables, we typically need a key column like customer ID, product ID, or order ID to build a relationship. And when no single column works as a key, we also learn how to create a composite key by combining multiple columns like region and month. Now let's look at a new scenario where you don't just have one key or composite key, but instead we have multiple keys column in a single table with each with a different purpose. Imagine we have an order table where business tracks multiple dates for each order. Order date when the order was placed, ship date when it was shipped, delivery date when it was delivered, return date if it was returned. Now, we also have our date table, a central table that stores date-related field like month, year, week, fiscal year. The business uses this date table so they don't need to create a new column for every analysis. If I want to analyze how many orders were placed in each fiscal year or a month, I would create relationship order date from the order table to date column in date table. But if I now want to analyze how many orders were delivered each month, the key changes here. Now I need to use delivery date to connect to the date table instead. Now, if I need to do a return analysis, again my key changes here. Return date in order table with the date column in date table. Now let's look at how we can fix this in Power BI. Let's say we have already loaded the data. Here you can see we have order table with order ID, order date, ship date, delivery date, return date, and amount of it. And then we have date table where we have a date. For each date we have year, month of it, what is the week of this date, and in which financial year this particular date comes in. So for example, if I have to do a date analysis, like if I want to check how many order were placed in particular fiscal year, I need to check it. So if I drag, because fiscal year is stored in date table, here you can see FY23 and 24. Let me increase the font size here. Now you see we have, now I need to check how many order were placed. So orders are in order ID. So when I drag it here, you see we are getting error as there is no date column here. So if I have to check how many orders were placed, order date tells me that when order was placed. So I'll create a relationship between, if I want to check how many orders were placed in particular financial year, order date contains that data. So when I create relationship with order date, with the date column in date table, then I'll be able to get these details. Let's try to create relationship. We'll go to manage relationship here. We have a date and then order date. So we will always have only one date here because we cannot have same date in a year, right? So we have single date here, but in a single date we can have many orders. So it is one-to-many relationship. Let's do it both. Create it. Now you can see relationship has been created. I'll go here. Now let's drag order date here and we'll do a count here. Let's say we need count. So now you can see for FY23, 5 orders were created, and for 24, 15 orders were created. Don't worry how I have created this logic. Again, I'm telling this we'll be covering in next part when we will be covering how to create visualization, how to do analysis in Power BI. As of now, you just focus on the data. So now let's look at another in table, and we go to table here, and if we go here for 23, you will see FY23 only we have total 20 records here as of now, but for FY23 we have 5, for 24 we have 15 records. Now let's say now I want to analyze how many orders. Let's say we'll also drag here month. Now we have month wise here, like for Feb month we have 2 orders. For example, I want to check how many orders were returned for a particular month. Now let's say I have to do monthly analysis of return. How many orders were returned in a particular month? Then our key changes here, because our return data is stored in the return date. From here we can get how many orders were returned in a particular financial year or particular date. So now we need to create a relationship with return date here. Let's go back to relationship. Let's try to create another relationship here. We'll go date table, order table with a date column. Now our key changes here, which is return date here. On to many, we'll keep it both. Now you can see we have 2 tables here. But now if you drag here, you will notice that one is a solid line here, one is coming here dotted line. In Power BI, you cannot create multiple active relationship at a time. Initially, we discussed that whenever you create a relationship, you can make it check. But now you'll understand when this is useful. So now, as I said, in Power BI, you cannot create multiple active relationship at a time, because Power BI doesn't know which one to use, which one you are trying to analysis, whether it's order date, or for example here you are trying to do order analysis, and sometimes you are trying to do return analysis, but Power BI wouldn't know that which key to use. That is why at a time we can use only one single active relationship. Now for example, if you have to do return date analysis, you can make it inactive and this one active. Now relationship has been changed to return date. Now let's do return date analysis. Let's say we want to check how many orders were returned each month. Now you can see 2 was returned on April, 1 and 9. Total 9 orders were returned. We can go back to data. Here you can see we have only 9 dates here when the orders were replaced. Similarly, we can create for another one. So for example, if you would like to do shipping date analysis when the shipping took place, you can create a relationship with the shipping. Let's go here, create a new relationship with the date to date order table, order and ship date. You can define it one to many because we can have many records, although in our data we have single date coming here, but there can be a scenario when multiple order were shipped on a single date. Ship. Now you can see again third relationship has been created, and which is again dotted line. So if you want to do that analysis, you can make this inactive and then this one active. And then you can do your analysis like ship date analysis. So for example, you want to do analysis for all at once. Like for example, you are creating a single visualization where you need shipping analysis, where you need return date analysis, where you need order date analysis, delivery date analysis at once. You cannot go again here and make one active, another one inactive, because you need all the analysis at once. This is not an ideal way, because this is also not a recommended way to go do one active, one inactive. I was explaining because you are just a learner that how Power BI works. We can make only one active relationship at a time, but in real cases, how we can solve this using advanced DAX function, which we will cover in next part, and we'll try to explain there. As of now, I won't be explaining how to implement such scenario, but when you learn the DAX, because this is learner series and we are focusing only on the basics of Power BI as of now, we are not explaining advanced concept to confuse you. But in the when we'll cover decks and how to create matches, there we'll cover how we can dynamically fix this when all the relationship will be created. But at the time of creating the visualization or analysis, how we can change key dynamically to do the analysis. For example, in the same dashboard, we can use shipping analysis as well as return date analysis, as well as order date analysis and delivery date analysis. Let's quickly summarize what we have discussed in data modeling part. We understood why data modeling is important. Then we understood types of relationship like one-to-one, one-to-many, and many-to-many. We also understood a scenario where no single column can act as a key. We combine multiple columns like region month to make a unique key in a table. We also understood a scenario where we can have multiple keys in a table and how to solve using relationship. If you would like to practice everything shown in this video series step by step, we have prepared complete content for you. Each part in the series has its own folder with instructions, raw data files and Power BI files so you can follow along easily at your own pace. For example, if you go to our part 4 of this series, you will see we have 3 folders. The first one is instructions folder. Here, if you open the instructions file, it has all the steps we have discussed, like the basic transformation. You will see step-by-step guidance along with images. Similarly, raw files contain all the raw files we used in this part, like basic transformation, text transformation and number transformation. And in Power BI folder, you will find completed Power BI file we have created in this part. To get access, just visit datasoft365.com or email us at datasoft365@gmail.com. We will send you everything you need to start learning hands-on.